All right, I'd like to call to order. The regular meeting, Monday, June 6th. Wow. 7 p.m. We are running late. We were working on the budget, and so my apologies, but we got some great things done. Can we have a roll call?
Councilmember Graham Mejia.
Here.
Councilmember Kusamoto.
Here.
Councilmember Poe.
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Edgar.
Here.
Mayor Stevens.
Here. All right. At this time, we're going to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, given by Mayor Pro Tem Edgar, and then the invocation. Please stand. Keep standing for me.
Hi. Please place your hand over your heart and join me. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
If you would, continue standing. Bow your heads. Tonight we pray for the over 50,000 troops that are deployed in Iraq and soldiers that we have throughout the world. It's an especially tough time for them. Father's Day is coming up this month, so keep them in your memory. We also pray for all of our uniformed officers that defend us and protect us in our city. And we pray for guidance in all that we do with the city as far as the finances go and how we handle ourselves. We ask this in your name. Amen.
Amen. Amen.
All right, tonight we have two presentations. We have the Orange County United Way Habitat for Humanity and Casa Youth Shelter. And then right after that, we're going to have the Los Alamitos Police Department presentation too. I'm going to ask the City Council to join me down in front, and anyone from Casa Youth Shelter and Habitat for Humanity, please step up here too. United Way. All right, we're going to make a team effort out of this. I'm going to have Mayor Pro Tem Edgar go ahead and read this one. And there you go.
Thank you, Mayor. First of all, I just want to thank the Mayor and the City Council for allowing us to recognize a great effort of community partnering within our community. This evening, we're going to recognize our own Casa Youth Shelter with Judy Clabeau. We're going to recognize the Habitat for Humanity with Mark Corondo and the VP of the United Way Orange County, Susan Cummient. And what has happened here is that we've had a great opportunity in the last month that we're trying to commemorate. I'm on the Casa Youth Shelter board with Judy, and a great board, and we're, tough times. We're trying to raise money for the shelter, which helps throwaway youth. And as we're doing that, we have always had a great partnership with the United Way. So over the last couple years, obviously with this economy, the United Way's had quite a challenge continuing to maintain its partnerships with all of its organizations. We had a very unique situation where the United Way and Habitat for Humanity came forward together in a partnership and said, look, maybe instead of just giving you guys donating money to help fund your programs, what type of structural activity or actions do you have that we could potentially partner in? So what has happened here in Orange County is one of the first partnerships with the within Orange County for the United Way, Orange County, and the Habitat for Humanity to actually get in-kind services of fixing parts of our Casa Youth Shelter with this partnership. So instead of getting hard money, we got services. They put together a project. We're one of 4 projects that were approved, but we're the first one done. It's something that as a council member for Los Alamitos and for our entire city council, I'm very proud that we were able to get this done, and it was in Los Alamitos. So with that, what I'd like to do is, if I could, I'm going to hand these awards to the mayor, and I'm just going to read off these proclamations that we put together to basically to acknowledge this really, really neat event for our community. Again, I just want to make sure everybody acknowledges the guests that we have here tonight. Mark Coronado from Habitat for Humanity. Judy Clabeau, one of our board members, past president, and she's here for Emile George. And then we've got Susan Comient, who is the vice president for the United Way. And again, nice to have you here. Let me just read this really quickly. Orange County United Way, Habitat for Humanity, and Casa Youth Shelter, and working jointly to provide a much-needed public shelter facilities. Together, these groups announced that they were forming a Building United, a unique partnership program that will improve the capacity of a nonprofit service providers through the delivery of reduced cost facility improvements and construction. Whereas Building United is the result of OCUW, or the United Way, and the Habitat's common interest to increase the community resources and meet the needs of the lower income families. Building United leveraged a grant funding with the Habitat quality construction services and volunteers to improve a facility and the capacities for leading nonprofits. Whereas the Building United and the United Way will provide qualified agencies with 50% matching grant of up to $25,000 to support critical facility improvements that will directly increase service capacity. Whereas the Building United project was completed on May 18th at the Casa Youth Shelter in Los Alamitos, and Casa Youth Shelter is a 12-bed temporary shelter for runaways and youths in crisis. The shelter provides hope, safety, and structure to provide the youth and their family. Casa Board of Directors were delighted to meet with Building United's match grant provided by both organizations and a crew of volunteer experts that completed the project, a leak-free roof, and 2 completely remodeled bathrooms and upgraded. Therefore,
This is where I get to take it. Now, therefore, I, Kenneth Stevens, Mayor of the City of Los Alamitos, on behalf of the Los Alamitos City Council, do hereby commend Building United and its affiliate partners for their commendable support and contributions to our community. I wish this extraordinary organization much success in the future on any of its endeavors. So,
Thank you so much.
I'll say something. I just want to say how grateful the whole board was to this undertaking. It was so professional right from the day one that they stepped on, wrapped it up in just a very short period of time, and it meant so much to us. I mean, get these 2 bathrooms working really good and no leaky roof. Thank you. It was amazing.
Really, I want to echo that as well. We were happy to do it. Working with Habitat has been a joy, and it's a way to fund these agencies, like we were saying, outside of the box. And it's something that other funders don't do, so it's a brand new program, and it's a one of a kind. So we're thrilled about it.
Well, throughout Orange County, Habitat for Humanity has several thousand construction volunteers. They have a real passion for building and constructing and maintaining structures, which ultimately provide services to the local community. And they also really have a heart for other nonprofit organizations throughout the county as well, and we're glad to be a part of this.
okay, now we have to get in a lot closer.
Thank you.
I wanted to thank Mayor Pro Tem Edgar, because I know he's worked along with the shelter for a long time, and so it was a privilege for him to be able to hand these out also. All right, our next presentation is going to be to the Los Alamitos Police Department. Is there anyone here from our police department? Come on up. Come on up. It's a bunch of smiley, friendly faces that we see all the time. And believe me, they promote a great deal of peace within our city, too. The scary thing is, I think I've seen a few of you grow up. And it's good to see you in uniform right now. All right, this presentation is, I'm going to just read it off. Whereas the Los Alamitos Police Department was established in 1962 and is committed to provide the highest degree of professional police services in partnership with the community, and whereas the members of the Los Alamitos Police Department combined traditional enforcement practices with creative problem-solving strategies to enhance the quality of life in our community, and whereas the members of the Los Alamitos Police Department are committed to community-oriented policing and continue to demonstrate compassion and empathy when dealing with victims of crime or those in need, and whereas the members of the Los Alamitos Police Department demonstrate a commitment to community and utilize the comprehensive understanding of neighborhood issues to more effectively resolve problems and solve crimes, and whereas the City Council of the City of Los Alamitos has received positive feedback regarding the service provided by the Los Alamitos Police Department. Now, therefore, I, Kenneth Stevens, Mayor of Los Alamitos, on behalf of the Los Alamitos City Council, do hereby commend the Los Alamitos Police Department for its dedicated service, steadfast mission, making Los Alamitos a safe place to live, visit, and conduct business. And that's for real. We mean that, too. Now, normally the chief gets all of these things, so we're going to go right here. There you go. I'm going to make you hold on to that. Hold it with me. Anybody? There you go. In fact, we're probably going to have pictures, so all of you have to get over here. Yes.
If I may just introduce the officers that we have here. Officer Jake Sorensen, Officer Justin Kim, Sergeant Rick DeLeon, Officer Lauren Paholsky, and Corporal Michael Sistoni. Now, this is just a small portion of our police department, but the officers and employees throughout our ranks are committed to the mission of our police department, which is to provide the highest degree of professional service. And that service is evident by some feedback that we get on a regular basis. In fact, in just a couple of meetings recently, up on the dais, you've been praising the efforts and the hard work of a couple of our officers that are here tonight, Officer Sorensen and Officer Justin Kim. And I believe there's even some folks here in the audience who are here because they appreciate the real good police work that Officer Sorensen did recently. And I, like you, am very proud of the hard work that they do, and I'm just especially proud to be their chief.
Did we get all the pictures? All right. You want to solve this, please? I sure do.
Thanks for coming tonight, you guys. Hey, you. Good. Thanks for coming.
All right, now we're back up here. We are going to go to oral communications. At this time, any individual in the audience can come forward and speak on any item within the subject matter jurisdiction of the City Council. Remarks are to be limited to not more than 5 minutes per speaker. And I didn't even finish, and Judy's already up there.
First off, I want to thank the representation that we had from this city when we honored Superintendent Greg Franklin and Alan McLean. I mean, it couldn't have made for a more special evening. And both of these gentlemen were just like in awe. They said it was such a special night for them that they'll never forget it. So I want to thank you all for taking the time to show up there, because that was phenomenal. And then secondly, next Monday, the 13th, is the Chamber Golf Tournament at El Dorado, and there's still a couple openings. If somebody wants to golf, you can call the office at 598-6659. And other than that, things are a little bit quiet for the rest of the month, so thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak?
Thank you. My name is Kathy Salai, and I live in the Greenbrooks here in Los Alamitos. And I came before you as a city council at the last meeting looking for justification on the last employee contract, considering the economic times, considering that other cities have expected their employees to contribute to a much greater extent than we have, especially when there's so many issues in our town that need attention financially. One of the things that I brought up, and I have since met with Jeff, I didn't find our conversation, it was interesting. I'll leave it at that. I didn't have any great sense that this compensation was given for good reasons or solid reasons or in the best interest of the community. So I still am standing with my disappointment. One of the conversations was the sidewalk repairs. So I went around my neighborhood after hearing Jeff's analogy that 1 inch is acceptable on a rise on a sidewalk, and that grinding the sidewalks and the cement sidewalks is perfectly acceptable also. Certainly not very aesthetically pleasing, but I guess it falls within the realm of acceptability. In the Greenbrook tract alone, I think we have, Troy, 200 homes, somewhere give or take. 32 places where the sidewalks are more than 1 inch. In addition to that, we have places where the sidewalks are patched with asphalt. That's certainly not aesthetically pleasing, and certainly doesn't meet our expectations as a community. In other places where the sidewalks have been patched with cement, the patch is deteriorating because water has gotten under it, and it's been ignored. And I find this very disappointing. So, you know, I mean, we can talk about, I went to a sales conference many, many years ago, and they talked about being the best sales rep in your company. But if your company isn't any good, it really doesn't matter that you're the best sales rep. So in my neighborhood, our city is a reflection of my home value, and our home values are not increasing in Los Alamitos for a lot of reasons. But I could have the nicest home in all of Los Alamitos, but if my sidewalk is patched with asphalt, or it's grinded, or the sidewalks in my neighborhood are not patched correctly, and people trip, or the streets still show cracks in the slurry coat, that doesn't help my home value, does it? So I wanted to bring those points up. The other thing that fuels into this is that if you heard last week, California was ranked 49th in being business friendly. We're just not a state that creates interest and excitement for businesses to come due to regulation, taxes, fees, permits, on and on and on. It goes on. And as I look around Los Alamitos, I'm seeing something very similar. So I'm wondering, what are we doing? What are we doing to invite businesses? Because I see now 2 large facilities on Cerritos Avenue that are sitting stone empty, 2 facilities on Los Alamitos Boulevard that are sitting stone empty. We're talking about prime property on busy throughways. And I don't see our growth. We have horses on Catella Avenue. We can't make left turns. We make a left turn, and then the arrow says turn left, and the sign says turn right. We're not business friendly. We're just not doing all that we can do to improve the quality of our town. And now that we are burdened with these additional expenses because of this contract that will obligate us for years to come, we need to find, other than the residents, other sources of revenue. And I'm just greatly concerned, and I want to express that to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please. All right.
Good evening, Alice Jemsa, Los Alamitos resident. I was very pleased when I looked over the agenda tonight to see that one of your discussion items is exactly something that I brought up, I think it was 2 weeks ago, about people who go around our neighborhoods ringing doorbells and soliciting for any number of causes. It seems as though asking them to show you their permit to do such, they look at you like, well, what are you talking about? And this is part of our community regulation, that people must get permits if they're going out and soliciting business or asking for donations or whatever in our community. That was put in place for a very good reason. And I think maybe the reason has reappeared. I live in a tract of 101 houses. And at this point, and I talked to one of the detectives at the Police Association dinner the other night, and this is all I know about. There are 2 houses in that tract of 101 that are currently being checked on because of break-ins. And quite nice things were taken when they were broken into. I think if people had a better understanding of, if you see a car that you don't understand why it's there and it seems to be, or people walking the neighborhoods or whatever, and it doesn't look just right, what do they do? Who do they call? What are the things that they should be very careful about? If they see their neighbor's garage door open all the time on a certain day, and it's usually never open, these are things that we can alert our community residents about, and perhaps we can avoid some of the problems that we are having now. And again, we don't want it to get any bigger. So I think getting our community alert and perhaps looking at the guidelines to see if they're still workable is a very, very good idea. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Council. Javier Mejia, Los Alamitos resident. A couple of quick things. I know that Kathy was bringing up some safety issues around the residents. I also would like to echo that same sentiment. There's things all around the city. There's a traffic signal over on Humboldt that has been, it looks like temporarily repaired, and it's been sitting idle for quite a long time. It's got a big box around the base with exposed wires going into the concrete, and that's, I don't know what the regulations are, but I could find out as far as getting that repaired, and I'm not sure what the holdup is on that. I'd like to find that out. I've also noticed around the city that it seems like Our solution to some of the graffiti is now to paint over the graffiti. And I know that's a real easy way to do it, but in the long run, it really looks bad. And it's a process that once you start, you cannot go back. There are a lot of graffiti removers that I have personally used myself that work very well. They take a little bit more time, but when you clean a pole or a box or something, it's clean. And you don't have this mismatch of different colors and paint. And I drive through LA every day and I see what it looks like, and there's no going back for them. But I think that our community can do a better job of keeping that under control. I'd like to find out what our policy is on that, or if we have a company that does it, or if it's our own public works that's doing it. It was a year ago that I brought forward the speed down the alley. It was prior to last year before school let out. Here we are a year later. We do have the 15-mile-an-hour speed limit signs in the alley, but as was noted in the budget meeting, it doesn't seem to really slow traffic down. At least once a week, I could stand in the alley not 10 feet from the alley and have a car peel out, burn rubber, fly by at least 40. I mean, I don't have a radar gun, but I'm pretty sure that it's at least 40. If nobody's been hurt, then we're just lucky. Maybe we need to look at alternative solutions, making the alleys one way. I don't know what that would do, but it would probably cost less and divert the flow of traffic that people are trying to use Catella or whatever's going. But I know the Traffic Commission did a study, and from my understanding, it was an hour during the lunch hour, which I don't believe is an effective study. You want to see what's going on, and you kind of need to see what's going on at kind of all periods of the day, because it's pretty random, but it's consistent. And I know, Ken, you've seen the same issues, and I think that here we are another week and a half before school lets out, and I just think that that's really a dangerous time for us, and I'd like to see something, maybe alternative ideas, speed bumps, speed humps, bot dots. I know the bot dots make some noise, but I think they could be strategically placed so that they're not under somebody's window and still be effective. But anyway, those are just the ideas that I had. I just wanted to find out what was going on with that. Also, I brought forward the Lexington going through across Catella towards the Joint Forces Training Base. Haven't heard anything on that. Right now, you can only go left or right if you're southbound on Lexington. I think that the traffic is being usurped through Saratoga and then around and through the into the business park there to get through into the alley, and it just makes a lot more sense to be able to use that straight shot to go through Lexington. It's a bigger, wider street. It's just got to be a safer decision there. So I'd like to find out what's going on with that. I haven't heard anything, but other than that, thank you very much.
Thank you. City Manager, could you follow up on these? All right, great. Thank you. Next speaker, please. Seeing no one. All right.
I really like in the Target Center, the Chipotle, the Yogurtland, and Subway. I really thought, now when I drive down Seal Beach Boulevard, I don't know, it just makes, there's a lot of other choices. And I just want to say good job, and I really like that. I don't know, it sounds silly, but...
No, nothing sounds silly. That's perfect. Thank you. Pardon?
I need his name.
Oh, could we have your name, too? You got it?
Jake Black.
All right. Thank you. All right. Next speaker.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council. Dean Gross, resident of Los Alamitos. On your consent calendar, item number D, Memorandum of Understanding for the Catella Avenue Traffic Light Signalization Project. As Councilmember Poe will remember, this was originally included, we were told, as part of the Smart Street program when they widened Catella. And realistically, it wasn't. Back in those days, the traffic engineer gave us a variety of reasons why it was left out. I believe that was Mike Kim at that particular time that was serving as city engineer and also jointly as a traffic engineer. The technology currently exists in some of these signal boxes because after 8, 9 o'clock at night, you can pull into an intersection's left-hand turn pocket, and you'll get an immediate green light if there's no opposing traffic. During the daytime, Hartzog and Kraybell supposedly has control over these signals and has set them as a metered signal, and it runs for, I believe it is 120 seconds. The problem is that you can sit waiting to make a left-hand turn onto Bloomfield or some of these other streets, and when you're going eastbound, or even when you're going westbound, and you'll watch that there's absolutely no traffic coming, no opposing traffic, and you wait and you wait and you wait. And I've actually sat there and counted the seconds out on my watch, and it is in with the 120 seconds, but as soon as you get a green arrow, there's traffic coming your way, so you're disrupting that traffic. My biggest concern over OCTA being the project director on this is that the city may lose some impact and feedback on it, and I would encourage you to make sure that the city, through the Public Works and the city engineer, does have the opportunity to provide feedback. There used to be a thing called flow interconnect back when I was on the Traffic Commission. The same thing was discussed, that the traffic regulated the signals so that platoons of traffic could actually move more effectively down the street. Today we're not being run by platoons, we're being run by clocks. And most cities around us use that advanced technology. As I said, it's in the boxes because they're programmed after a certain time, including weekends when there's not as much traffic on the street. There's a time period between 7 to 9 in the morning when the traffic is extremely heavy east and westbound on Catella, and then again about 3:30, 4 o'clock until about 6 or 6:30. And it's pretty gridlocked at that point, and the signals stop. Timing at that stage is the only answer, and I can understand that. But during the other times of the day when traffic is generally flowing, to stop traffic, to let somebody turn left just doesn't make sense when they could have turned left easily and cleared the traffic. So I'm in favor of having signalization from Santiago Boulevard all the way out in Orange, all the way over to the 605 freeway. But for crying out loud, let's do it right this time and not sit back and wait later. And I just would encourage the city to make sure they're more on top of the project than just simply passing the buck off to OCTA and letting them do it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next speaker, please. Scene. Okay. All right, seeing no additional speakers, we're going to bring it back to the council now. We're going to go to item number 7, Register of Major Expenditures.
Make a motion to pass it.
I'll second.
Could we have a roll call vote?
Councilmember Graham Mejia,
Aye.
Councilmember Kusamoto,
Aye.
Councilmember Poe,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Edgar,
Aye.
Mayor Stevens.
Aye. All right, moving on to item number 8, consent calendar. All consent calendar items may be acted upon by one motion unless a council member requests a separate action on a specific item. Does anyone have any items they want to pull? Let's go with Councilmember Mejia.
I'd like to pull item D. I had some of the same concerns as Mr. Gross with regards to us having
All right.
control and a say in it.
All right. And Councilmember Kusamoto, do you have any that you wanted to pull?
No, fine.
Okay. Mayor Pro Tem, I'm sorry. Councilmember Poe
No, item D was of concern for me also.
and Mayor Pro Tem Edgar.
No.
You know, I also had D on here to pull too, and I also had E to pull. I'm going to let Councilmember Mejia go ahead and speak to this.
Make a motion to remove the
Oh, I'm
remainder if we
sorry.
could.
All right,
I'll
let's do
second.
that. And all those in favor?
A through D, or A through C.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay. All right. Let's readdress item 8D. Councilmember Mejia.
I just like the community have a little bit of a staff report, and once that's done, we can discuss some of the concerns that Mr. Gross brought up about us retaining our ability to weigh in and have the ability to cause what might be changed.
Very good. All right. And Councilmember Poe, I'm going to let you go ahead and speak to on that.
But the same thing.
All right.
Staff report's fine.
No.
Okay, Mr. Mayor and City Council members. This item 8D is, again, it's about the Catella Smart Street. It's synchronizing 58 traffic signals throughout Orange County in there. Just want you, the bottom line on this is our traffic consultant, or traffic engineer, Hart, Salt, and Crable, has given the county, OCTA, a whole list of improvements they want to see already through the whole reach, like all the other cities did. When OCTA put the RFP out, it included all the different cities' requests as what to look at. We will have an opportunity when the consultant is going to be hired, which will be in June, to then review their findings before they spend any money at all to make sure that all our concerns are addressed and issues on there. So there is a check and balance system. OCTA could override us if they wanted to. They are paying the bill on this, but typically they're very open to listening to any suggestions or concerns we have. So we are not just walking away from this. We will have opportunity throughout the whole project to stay in tune with that. So it is to improve the flow of traffic, the whole signal timing. OCTA's main concern is to get the cars through the cities, but we've also addressed how we want to make sure that the cars within the city can still function to get to businesses and residential areas and that. So they have a joint issues there that they're looking into. So with that, I'll be glad to answer any more questions.
Councilmember Pia.
Thank you. Let's say we decide to move forward with this tonight and we join. Is this an indefinite joint venture, or is it readdressed at a later time for the benefit of the community?
This is a one-time improvement right now, and then there'll be, as with the past, they'll come back because it's a smart street program, and it could come back again in future years as part of the Measure M program, and what they want to do some other improvements on there.
Okay, I know there were people who were concerned that we were kind of giving away our ability to weigh in on how things were. Moving forward, if we have problems, what would be the process for addressing those within that first year time frame?
If we have any problems with there, we have the project managers at OCTA that are in contact with me on that. We would then bring those up, and they would correct those. They are very open to making sure that all the cities are taken care of. So it's a very open door policy with them. So if anything comes up, they're more than we'll come out, they'll meet with us, meet with our field people. And this whole process is to get what we want. That's why they even asked us at the very beginning,
right,
what do we want to see out there to make it work better for our city?
Sure. Well, I want to make sure what Mr. Gross said about the left-hand turns. I've noticed that myself. Was that one of the items that we included?
It is. It's making sure that the timing works on both the straight traffic, the cross traffic, and the left turn policies. Because we have that issue throughout the city of some of our left turn issues with the busy streets that we have, making sure those cars can get through.
Okay. And I'm not sure if this is appropriate for this item here, but quite some time ago, I was told that the Opticom machinery was supposed to be placed during the Smart Street at the signals so that the fire department, as they come on an emergency call, those signals would give them the opportunity to pass through on a green. Is that included in our list?
I don't believe it is. I'll have to double check.
Okay, is that something that would be appropriate? Because I've been told, and I don't know that it's true, that the hardware is there, but I've also heard that it isn't. And if it isn't, I'm kind of curious if we could do a little research to find out if it was just negotiated away, and if so, how we make sure that those are taken care of.
I can find that information out and report back.
Okay, so my last concern is, moving forward, we have a problem, we go to them, and no matter what that problem is, they fix it.
They will do the best they can to fix it. There's no guarantees, but they have been very cooperative.
Okay, I just want to make sure that if our city says, hey, listen, this isn't working for us, we need this changed, we're going to have a voice, and it's going to carry some weight.
We do.
That's it, Mayor.
All right, thank you. Councilmember Poe, anything else?
Well, along those same lines, and thank you, Mr. Gross, for bringing your concerns. I also have experienced many times going down Catella and there not being any cross traffic at all at several of the streets, and stopping and sitting and waiting, and there's nothing to wait for. You know, I mean, it's kind of frustrating. My biggest concern is after this is all done, and I think that's already been probably answered, and if we have future problems, then say 2 years from now, do we still go to OCTA to have them taken care of?
We do, because they're responsible for the whole timing issues along the whole Smart Street corridor and work with our traffic consultants, and we have to maintain the items that are out there. But there is monthly traffic meetings that go back and forth between the OCTA and the cities, and if any issues come up, they get resolved.
And we would have representatives there on our behalf.
We do.
Okay. All right.
Very good, thank you. I only have a couple of questions. Again, one of them, I think it's OCTA's desire just to move traffic faster from one end of Catella down the other. I still have the same concern that everybody else does about the north and southbound traffic crossing the streets. And again, it's going to be a report back, and probably even a report back from some of our citizens too, residents, whenever they're having difficulties trying to get across the streets. How is the 405, 22605 connector extra traffic, how is it affecting this program and our street currently? And whenever that is completed, will the adjustments be made on Catella too in relationship to the Smart Street?
Well, currently it is affecting our Los Alamitos Boulevard and Catella Avenue with increased traffic and some diversions on there. We've already sent our traffic consultants out to fix some of the timing issues at Catella and Los Alamitos Boulevard because of the backup was causing to back up several lights. It was already bad. It's the most heavily trafficked intersection we have in the city. We've made some adjustments. They are going to make some further adjustments when school is out to try and keep the timing going a little bit better. So we are constantly monitoring that. If we get a complaint, I send our traffic consultant out there to go look at the timing. He goes out there and does a physical view of it to see what else he could do to make it better at the time. You know, we say go out there at 7:30 to 8:30 because that's when it really backs up bad. He's out there and makes it, he'll start tweaking to make it work better. He did a major tweak about a week or two ago. He plans on doing it again as soon as the school's out, and so that hopefully in the summer it goes through. I mean, we're going to live with this situation for, what is it, another 18 months or so? I mean, it's going on for a while here, so we'll come back in the fall when school starts again, we'll make some more adjustments. So we will constantly do that.
All right. Do you happen to know offhand what the signals are set at currently for what speed if you're traveling down Catella?
The speed limit is 35 to 45 to 40 miles an hour. That's what they're typically set at to keep the flow of traffic going. I don't have that. It's not set for anything different than that. So,
just for our residents. So if you maintain one speed, the chances are better that you're going to be able to.
On Catella, that works pretty well for most of the time. Because if you try and get out on Catella, you can sit there for a long time to make a turn on there, especially out of our own local signal right out here.
Yes. Oh no.
Flow of traffic.
Trust me, we all know that.
Yeah.
Too. Any of us that have to go back and forth across the city. The last question I have for you is pedestrian split time. Please give me a definition on that. They said they were going to do a study for 3 different times of the day on that split time. My concern is students going across, trying to get to LAE, students trying to get to the high school. What constitutes a split time? How much time is it? And is it actually going to be set up for before school starts, after school, and possibly weekends, or how did they establish that?
Okay, I don't have the exact time of the split time, but typically it's also like on busy intersection where we have a a certain schedule in the morning, midday, and rush hour, and in the evening. So it could be like up to 4 different times that it varies on how much time to give them to cross. They heavy pedestrian areas, they give them more time for the students to actually walk across the intersection. I don't have the exact time.
No, that's fine. But this is something where we would be able to have input on?
Yes, yes. And basically when they decide what to do, it gets reviewed by our traffic engineers to go through that and look at what improvements they're proposing to do. And it gets approved by our consultant, Hartzell and Crable, when they come in. So all that will be reviewed, and if we can have them report back to the city council on their findings after the first phase, if that's what you'd like, so you can have all the numbers and exactly what is going on and what they're approving.
Yeah, I would really like to see that, and it's just simply because I see the crossing guards being challenged sometimes when they're trying to get the kids safely across the street, especially over by LAE. But then on the other hand, I see the high school students too trying to run because that signal's just a little bit too fast for them, during prime time to be able to get from one side of Cerritos.
Yes,
and so who handles that?
Yes, well, we can make suggestions on each of the timing and on the study and get it to. Then at the end, we're responsible for maintaining it, and actually we can then tweak some of it individually to meet our needs afterwards. So
if we can get just a better definition on the 3 different split times that they're talking about, and the timing, just simply because I know that it's has a direct impact on the students trying to get across, and then again on weekends, I know that you can set north and southbound and never get across the street because the signal isn't changing when no one's there.
Yeah,
that's all I had. Does anyone else like to ask any questions on B8? All right.
Yes, please. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So, Mr. Hunt, on this agreement, though, and this may not be a fair question for you, but I'll ask it anyways in terms of prior history with dealing with the other communities, because whereas OCTA is the overall agency, right, that's, I'll say, refereeing between the different communities, has it been in our experience that the other communities have wanted something that may have been detrimental to our city in terms of through traffic or basically something that someone needed, let's say Anaheim needed, and it was had a undesirable consequence for us? Do you know of anything like that?
My experience with that is on other similar projects like freeway improvements projects go through multiple cities, and some cities will ask for more than they deserve. OCTA's role is to balance that out with the whole project, which is one of the reasons why they're taking the lead on this, to pull all these cities together so they create a corridor that will work properly and separate the different cities out so they can't argue as much over that.
Okay.
So they are the ones that will make it flow and not let one overtake the other.
So I guess back to then city staff that may be familiar, has there been any instances where one of the other member cities has wanted something that was detrimental to us or impacted us in a negative way?
Well, in my year and a half here, I have not.
But I'm asking anybody else that might know. No? Okay. And then just the other side of it, the total 180-degree opposite view. What happens if we don't sign this? I mean, what's the downside?
Well, I think
funding at risk.
Well, this is separate funding, but what would be at risk is we joined the whole concept of the Measure M funding and for all our streets and everything else. This is separate from the normal money we get for our local streets. It would just be frowned upon heavily, and it could it wouldn't function as a major street. And I think if you go back, and I wasn't around in 2002 when we did the Smart Street, there was probably some agreements that the city signed back then that stated that you will comply with keeping this whole street acting as one.
Sure, but I think what I hear in my understanding of the impact to the residents on the side streets whereas drivers that are trying to use the Smart Street concept, but they're doing the cut through traffic.
Mm-hmm.
So there's some undesirable behaviors that go on with other drivers. So again, even with the Smart Street, we're having undesirable behavior. So maybe if we get out, then we'll just make the drivers just take a different route altogether, and then not drive through our neighborhoods, and to basically avoid this section of the Smart Street. And I'm not proposing that. I'm just asking the question.
Well, that's why we want to keep our traffic engineer involved through the whole process, so he can monitor that and make sure that nothing gets proposed that will hurt the city. Keep the traffic flowing, but also let the local residents get across and function properly.
But I think, I guess my point is, even with the smart street as it exists, there are still some undesirable effects that happen in the neighboring communities of cutting traffic. And that's just reality. I mean, people are trying to just skirt around it, right? I mean, that's
well, anytime you put a priority on the major street that goes through a city, it takes priority. That's why there.
Oh, but I think people that are paralleling the major street, and that's the kind of undesirable behavior I'm speaking of. So we had one speaker talk about alleyways. Alleyways are just perfect conduits for people that think that they can skirt through a red light and bypass some backed up traffic. So I see that happen, and I know it happens. So that's why I asked the question. No other further questions, though. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
All right, thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Edgar?
Yeah. With this issue, I guess I would have to agree with most of my colleagues up here on the points, but, I just want to make a connection for the community is that, later on this evening, we're going to talk about 9D. And 9D is looking at the redistricting for our community and how the West Orange County is going to be sliced up. Traffic being one of the number one items in our city. This is a regional transportation issue. If you go to the first page of the staff report at 8D, you'll see that the city's affected: Cypress, Garden Grove, Stanton, etc. This is a significant item that we have to work together. The kind of go it alone strategy, I think, is the challenge. Is we also compete for Measure M money and for actual extra allocations if they become available. Kind of looked at as I think Dave is saying nicely, to be frowned upon. That might work, to make a point, but it won't help us politically to try and attract more money to Los Al to get them to put money into the streets. Los Alamitos in the whole OCTA scheme doesn't have a lot of influence. We're one of the smallest cities. And so if you look at OCTA, to Marilyn's point, how do we influence this when we don't like what's happening? Today we have 3 representatives on the OCTA board that kind of look out for our best interest. We have a county supervisor who by default sits on this. We have a Huntington Beach person that actually is on the board and was elected because they're a weighted city, and then the population-based. We basically, those 3 people, if we have problems, us as council members have to reach out to them to try to influence this. So this seems like something that I like what Warren's saying. Hey, maybe we get creative and kind of demotivate people from driving through. But I think that the cost of doing that politically would have a bigger impact in our ability to attract extra funds to Los Al, where a lot of the money that gets put aside within OCTA goes to Huntington and some of the bigger cities. And so I'm supportive of this. I think that it's important to be careful, that we don't go too far. But I think that as council members on the elected side, what we need to focus on is if we really need help, we need to reach out to our Supervisor Morlock or Don Hanson in Huntington Beach, et cetera, and really try to get, or Larry Crandall in Fountain Valley, and try to get them to help us through this. And with this being the number one issue in Los Al, this isn't something that I think our community would expect us to try to get this synchronized so that we actually can get the traffic flowing through. So thank you with that. Appreciate it, Mayor.
All right. I think everyone's had a chance to speak on that item. Is there a motion to move it?
I'll move approval.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right.
I'm gonna abstain.
Okay. One abstention. I also asked to pull AD, and a lot of that was answered when we were going through budget. But I really would like to see anything that we can do as far as Laurel Park rehab goes, not waiting, possibly go in and even using city staff on some of the smaller items to be able to get them done. Because I know it's a fairly large project that we're undertaking, but I think the more if we can schedule in city staff to be able to help on that, it'll really keep that park perfect for our residents. And that's all I had on that. Anybody else want to speak to that? Okay, and I make a motion to move that.
Mayor, if I may, there's one correction that needs to be made to the actual staff report, and I've already informed staff, so I don't know that we need to mention it specifically, but if that can be corrected, I mention it to Ms. Agramonte.
But did you lower the amount, or?
I hope.
No. It and maybe I'm incorrect. We went over it. It said that the bid was $249,500, and that's $150 more than what we had budgeted. But when I look at the amount we budgeted, it was $230, and $249 subtract $230 is only a difference about $19,500. So if I'm incorrect in that, that's fine. Leave it as it is. But I'm pretty sure that's basic math. I think I got it right.
Yeah, and just for clarity, under the financial impact, I said that we had a budget allocation of $150,000 for construction, and the $230 is construction, design, and construction management. So I'm comparing the $240 to the $150, and
Okay, so the $240, I apologize. The $240 is just construction.
no,
I'm sorry, the $249.
Yes. $249 is what the construction bids the lowest construction bid came in at. Comparing that, we had a budget in there of $150 for just construction.
Just for construction.
And the
Okay.
rest of that money was for design and construction
Perfect.
management.
I appreciate that. So,
Okay.
never mind.
Okay. With that, I make a motion on that. Is there-
Second.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None. All right. That's the end of the consent calendar. We are going to go to discussion item 9, acceptance of donation bench and tree. Can we please have a staff report on that?
Yes, good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of the council. The item before you tonight seeks acceptance of a donation of cash or check for the purchase of a park bench and a tree to be located at Little Cottonwood Park. Recently, I was contacted by community member Colleen Lowe regarding this donation in honor of community member Jeff Thompson. And she told me a story about an outpouring of love and concern for Jeff Thompson, and community members coming together wishing to donate something concrete in his honor. So that's what this item is all about. Jeff Thompson was the son of Greg and Marty Thompson, very active in the community, and he passed away on February 24th of this year of respiratory failure at the young age of 34. So Jeff loved the Los Alamitos community, and his family would like to honor his memory by planting a tree and donating the bench in his honor. Both my department and the Public Works Department think that Little Cottonwood Park is a fitting place for the items, and the bench and tree would be located near the side of the park where the picnic shelter is, and that the bench and the tree and the plaque would match those of the 50th anniversary courtyard that were placed last year. So Colleen Lowe has gathered $1,600 in donated funds and wishes to donate that to the city, and then we would purchase the items and place the items, and then afterward this would just become part of the landscape of the park and be there in memory of resident Jeff Thompson.
Very good. Let me bring it back to the City Council. Does this, Councilmember Mejia, do you have any questions on that?
I think it's a great idea, and I support it 100%.
All right. Councilmember Kuzimoto?
I do support it as well, and I would ask, I guess there is going to be, I would presume, some type of ceremony in dedicating it that you would inform us so we can certainly try and make it there. Thank you.
Councilmember Poe?
Yes, I will make a motion to accept the donation of the bench and tree. Jeff was raised in our community. His mother, Marty Thompson, is the director of We Care. And those of us in the nonprofit area of the community have been very, very aware of the tragedy that befell Jeff. And this is going to be really good for those that knew him and for his family and for our community. So I will make that motion.
Second.
All right. Any comment from Mayor Pro Tem Edgar?
No, I absolutely support it. Thank you.
I think that's one of the most unanimous things I've ever heard. All right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Thank you. All right. We're going on to item number 9B. Explanation of the Los Alamitos peddler and solicitor regulations. Can we have a staff report on that one, please?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. Due to concerns over recent activity, staff is providing an overview of the city's procedures as it relates to people that go door to door. I'm not going to tell you whether they're a solicitor or peddler yet. We'll just talk about all the people who go door to door in Los Alamitos. Some residents have expressed their concern that people who go to door may be scouting out their homes. Our code differentiates these people who go door to door as either peddlers, canvassers, or solicitors. A simplification of the three are: a peddler sells good or service. He actually makes contact with you. A canvasser disseminates or collects written or oral information, like a census worker. A solicitor requests money, canned food, or clothing, and we all know those charities. Sometimes they'll put bags on your porch for those kind of things. The explanations are more complex, and they've been outlined in the staff report, but I wanted to give you a couple of examples of most of the people that go door to door in Los Alamitos. Girl Scout cookies, they're defined as a peddler, but they're exempt from obtaining any permit in the city because they're charitable and or nonprofit. Candy sales by a peddler, if they're a nonprofit or charitable, they would be exempt from going through our background check and our permitting process. School boosters that are selling items, again, exempt and for nonprofits and charitable. Home improvement sales. A peddler that gives you a flyer for solar doesn't have to get a permit. A peddler that contacts you, shakes your hand, and makes that personal contact door to door is required to obtain a permit and go through a background check at the police department. So they're not exempt, but it's only that one small difference that makes them exempt, is that they're having that human contact. A business card thrown on your door, a flyer put on your door, doesn't require that kind of processing. A curb painter, unless they're one of the city contracted one we do every 2 years, they're exempt if they're non-profitable. But again, we don't want them to do our curbs in our city. Religious groups are exempt from the process. Magazine sales are exempt if they're nonprofit. And as many of you seen, you've probably seen both categories of magazine sales, nonprofit and then for-profit. The census worker, again, is a canvasser and is exempt. St. Vincent de Paul, the clothing collector, they're exempt because they're charitable and nonprofit. And again, political information, a canvasser is exempt from the process. I'm going to explain a little about some legal precedents in the United States. Cities rely upon a 2002 ruling by the Supreme Court a ruling of Watchtower Bible and Tract Society of New York versus the Village of Stratton. They provided direction in drafting regulations for door-to-door solicitation that many cities go by. In this case, Stratton, Ohio passed an ordinance which required all door-to-door solicitors to register at City Hall and obtain a non-discretionary permit prior to engaging in any solicitation activity. The Supreme Court invalidated that ordinance on First Amendment grounds, a decision which has significantly altered prior case law regarding cities' ability to regulate. So that's what we use to make sure we don't overregulate and get ourselves in trouble with us violating that previous case law. So who is required to obtain a permit? A solicitor or a peddler is required to obtain a permit unless it's for a charitable reason or nonprofit. To provide an example, Girl Scouts sell a product, but they do so as a charitable organization. Therefore, they're allowed to go door to door without obtaining a permit from the city. If Nabisco goes and sells cookies door to door, they would have to obtain a permit. Small difference in what they're actually doing at your door, but a big difference as defined by our code. So who is exempt from a permit and a background checks? As I've explained, most people are exempt from a permit and a background check in our city. A review of section 5.50.050 shows that charitable, religious, and nonprofits are not required to obtain approvals for the city and thus are not subject to the background check by the police department. Again, I've inserted the table in the staff report that demonstrates some of the common ones and why they are required, and I'll explain a little more about canvassers. Los Alamitos Municipal Code specifically allows for canvassers to be exempt from obtaining a peddler and a solicitor permit. Now, a canvasser is, again, the guy who throws the flyer on your porch. He's the guy that throws 2 or 3 business cards on your porch on Saturday morning. We've all seen it. But the moment they have door-to-door, like some of the air conditioning salesmen or exterminators you've seen, then they're required to obtain a permit from the city. And if they don't have a licensed approved letter with them showing the approval from the city, then they shouldn't be there. The moment they try to personally have contact with the homeowner, then they have violated not getting a permit from the city. Regardless of being exempt from any permitting process, our city has rules of kind of behavioral guidelines of what they're supposed to do when they're out there. And it talks about no person shall represent in any manner that the city or its departments have endorsed their permit holder or endorsed their product. It says that they shall not affix any object to or place any object on or body of any individual who the solicitation, peddling, and canvassing is directed to without that person's consent. It says that no person shall touch, brush up against, or otherwise voluntarily come in contact, so it limits their physical contact with you. No person shall willfully obstruct the movement of any person. They can't block sidewalks. No person shall solicit, peddle, or canvass any person that has objected by words or conduct to such soliciting. If you've stated that you don't want soliciting, they're supposed to abide by that. No person shall refuse to identify the permit holder or whose behalf is soliciting. They can't hide their identity from you. No person shall threaten any or injure you. No person shall accept food stamps as a contribution. And no person shall directly, indirectly solicit, peddle, or canvass for any purpose by misrepresentation of who they are. They have to tell you who they are. One of the things that we have to concentrate on is that anyone that doesn't abide by these standard rules, we should contact the police department. I mean, if you see something, we have to say something in Los Alamitos regarding these kind of issues. Again, people who ignore no solicitation signs are going to ignore our regulations. Experience shows us that violators will continue to be violators. I want to explain a little bit about the cost of a permit. A permit for somebody to go through this process. The solar guy who's going door to door and wants to make contact with you. The air conditioning salesman. The old vacuum salesman. I don't think we see any of those. But we do see those kind of clustering of home improvement guys that go door to door. If they were to go through this process, they have to pay $153 to the city for the police department to review them and consider them, background check, fingerprinting, live scanning, and that covers that cost. Right now we have a letter of approval. What we'd like the city council to approve us immediately is changing that letter of approval to add their ID to that letter of approval. Thus, you can compare the ID on that letter with the ID that's supposed to be in their pocket. And that's one of the changes we'd like to have. Most of this is for your consumption. There's a lot of myths out there of who has to have a city permit on their hands. And as I've shown you tonight, not that many people that go to door are currently required to have a permit from the city in their hands. And we wanted to demonstrate that from you and also get your permission to change the approval letter immediately. And with that, staff wraps up the report. I hope I've demystified a lot of things you've understood with peddlers and solicitors.
All right, we're going to bring it back to the council, and in rotation, I'm the first one. The permit process and cost, how long is that permit good for?
That's good for a year.
And do we currently have people coming in getting the permits to be able to canvass or pedal within the city?
None right now. There are people that go door to door, but they're exempt from this permitting process. Just because I say they don't have a permit doesn't mean that people aren't going door to door in other categories.
All right. And do you think this may be a rush to nonprofit? I mean, I can just see some of these people trying to form nonprofits just to be able to bypass something like this. And the reason I'm saying this is, do we have any figures on how many cities require this background check and photo ID?
I don't have the total number in California, but we did a lot of research on this, and there are a number of cities that have background checks on peddlers and solicitors.
But do you know of any just right around us close here?
They all do.
Do they?
All the adjacent ones have rules, but again, they're rules a lot like ours. They're not requiring everyone that goes door to door registering because of that 2002 case that I spoke of earlier.
Right. Very good. All right, that's all I had. I'm going to move it on to Councilmember Mejia.
Thank you, Mayor. Let's say someone comes to your door. They don't have a permit, and they should. It's one of the group that need to. And either that or they have a fraudulent permit. They call the police. What's the penalty?
Yeah, I really don't know because we don't set those penalties. That would be up to the court.
Oh, that's up to the court. Okay. Well, we talked earlier this evening in the budget meeting about a phone notification system, and this is one of the things. Obviously, the people who are interested in being notified, we could categorize what they want to hear about and if they do or don't want to. So it could be really finely tuned to be a great tool. But this thing that we're talking about now, only a handful of people are going to know, that these people have to have permits. And for the safety of the residents, this is one of those things, using the phone system, we could make people aware now that there is a permit. It will have the person's picture on it. And if you have any concerns about it, feel free to call the police department and they can, mediate that for you. I'm glad we have this moving forward. It's going to protect the residents. There have been residents who have told me someone came to their door to sell them a vacuum cleaner. They had them come in, then they wouldn't leave, and it just became very, very ugly. So I think if we're able to put this in place, it's going to make things a lot easier. So I'm in support of it.
All right. Moving on, Councilman Kuzimoto.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So, Mr. Mendoza, thank you for this report. Presumably, the permittee would have some kind of instruction from whoever grants from the city that says you have to show this ID. And I do like the idea of the photocopy or the photo ID along with the letter. And I would imagine that'd be kind of one of the first things they ought to show when they approach a resident homeowner. Now, I guess one of the things I'm wondering is there maybe some kind of a very simplified fact sheet that we can make available on our website, whereas a resident can click it, download, print it out, and then somebody who comes up who is ignorant of the regulation, that does not fall into the nonprofit category, that we can just hand them that letter that says, hey, you're doing things all wrong. Please, go to the city and follow the proper procedure, get your permit, and then come back and then talk with us. And that may chase some of the people away, or at least educate some of the peddlers and solicitors. So it's something that you might want to look into as a tool for the residents. So that way, as Councilmember Graham Mejia says, there's only going to be a few people that know, the ones that are affected. But I think we can empower our residents here to at least know about this, take action, and then at least inform the people that are coming knocking on our doors. Thank you. With that, Mr. Mayor, back to you.
Thank you. All right, Councilmember Poe.
Yes. Too bad that case went the way it did. Because it would have been, I can see where, that would have been helpful to the community. we're hearing, and Alice came forward earlier, in I've heard about several instances recently in neighboring communities and in ours where people pose as nonprofit, religious, whatever, and they're really casing the joint. They're looking at the residents and to see who's there during the day, so on and so forth. So I think to Alice's comment that while we can only do so much, and I think what you've outlined here is great, I do think the idea of placing some information about this on the website and placing it on the police website, also maybe putting an article in our next program that goes out, in the fall, just a small article about this, because it does seem to be happening more. We're hearing about it more and more. I know the residents in Rossmore just had a kind of a seminar where people got together, and because there's a huge problem in Rossmore, and I know that there's more happening in our community. So I think we need to look at all of the different avenues that we can do, but most likely the best thing is for our community to become aware, our residential areas, and for neighbors to look out for neighbors. When you're home, if you see something, like Alice said, if you see a car that is not the car that's usually around, or someone's car garage door open, that kind of thing, that will go a long way to helping this community handle this problem that's coming now. So I think anything that we can do, just being good neighbors, and on the city side, the copy of the photo idea is great, a great idea. I think we just need to hit it from all angles, and really maybe we can get, I see Shelley out here, an article in the paper about people. It's just making people in the community aware that this is something that's happening more and more, and we all have to be kind of vigilant.
Great, thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Edgar?
I agree with all the comments. I don't have anything else to add. Thank you.
All right, do we have a recommendation or a motion? All right.
We don't have to make one. Oh.
It's a good thing, because we've got a lot of direction there. All right, moving on. We're going to move on to item C, approval of professional services amendment with the Planning Center DCE for general plan update and approval of corresponding budget amendment. Do we have a staff report on that one?
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, I'm assuming that the committee members are okay with me doing this? Okay.
Oh, absolutely.
In response to an RFP, proposals were received from 3 firms to update the city's general plan. It's a comprehensive update, including an environmental impact report. The 3 firms were the Planning Center, who just recently merged with DCE, so they have Planning Center, DCE, they're known as, Hogle Ireland, and RBF Consulting. Proposals were rated, interviews were conducted, references were checked, and consultants then refined their cost of their proposal. Each proposal was evaluated by subcommittee members Edgar and Kuzumoto and myself. The group used a rating scale of 0, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10, and the scores were averaged in all the categories. With rankings completed, the subcommittee directed Mr. Stewart and myself to conduct interviews with the Planning Center and RBF Consulting. Interviews were conducted and rated as represented in Table 2 of the staff report. And upon completing the scoring, staff phoned 3 references for each, obtaining information regarding their outreach ability, their ability to draft a defensible EIR, and the ability to keep up with the budget and schedule. All received high marks from the references contacted. The references were done to confirm, again, their ability to complete the project on time. Once complete, staff asked the 2 firms to refine their proposal. We asked them to take their pen back to their office and take a look at some pricing. Based on proposed ratings, interviews, and reference check, the Planning Center is being recommended to the City Council to prepare the city's update for the general plan. The general plan has been outlined as an 18-month process. The Planning Center is offering an extended financing option that would allow the city to spread payments over 3 fiscal years. Within any single fiscal year, the Planning Center would charge the lesser of either actual billings or $150,000. So what you have here is, in your first year, the expenditures to the Planning Center will not exceed $150,000. The second year will not exceed $150,000, and in the third year, it would not exceed just under $150, because the total doesn't go up to $450. And that's for related project reimbursables and labor. So it falls below that. So you have some creative financing that will help smooth the process of approving a $429,000 contract. In addition to the contract, staff is asking for another $25,000 for legal, engineering, and traffic-related peer review of the beginning of their EIR. This is just for the first year of the project. We'll probably be asking more for the second part of the project, because the city attorney will be working more closely at the latter part of the general plan, and so will traffic on the EIR. So right now we're only asking for the 25 for the fiscal year, and that's internally to use for Dave's time, Bernie's time, and the city attorney's time to do that peer review, similar to what was done on the hospital EIR for that project. With that, we have in the audience Mr. Brian Judd, Colin Drucker, and Bill Hannigan of the Planning Center. They're here if you have any questions regarding their process. And I want to thank the subcommittee for their work in this. The subcommittee was very active and took a fundamental role in rating these proposals and knowing these proposals just as good as staff, and I want to thank them for their assistance in this process. And with that, that is staff's report, and the recommendation is to go with the Planning Center.
All right, I'm going to ask anybody on the subcommittee, do you have any comments on it at all?
Oh, sure, I'll start. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I do want to thank city staff, Mr. Mendoza, for organizing us and providing the information. It was a lot of reading, and I thought that any of the offers were very well qualified. I think the one that was not the final two did have a ways to go in terms of being, familiar with our city. So I think whittling it down to the final two, and either one I think was a fine choice. So I guess the one thing on the waiting I was going to ask, but I'll hold that for questions. Back to you, Mr. Mayor.
All right. Anything?
Yeah. I guess first of all, again, I just want to thank city staff for assisting us through this process. But also, most of all, I want to thank you, Warren, for your contribution. I've been on a lot of ad hoc committees on my time on the council, and Warren got right in and just contributed a significant amount. I'm very appreciative of his effort. I also want to acknowledge Jerry and previous council members Arcos. They did an excellent job. They served it up to us, and from there we finished off it. We wouldn't have gotten near as fast through this without them. So Jerry, thanks for your help on that. I hope that as we get ready to vote, Warren and I had two objectives that we were really trying to stay focused on. One is that we knew that this would be one of the biggest contracts that's let for the year, and we knew that we needed to be able to provide policy direction to the extent we could without overstepping our bounds. I hope that the rest of the council believes that we've communicated with you when we've come to key points through this process. We brought it back and asked for guidance so that we were more on path. We tried to take a quantitative approach to normalize these. It was easy to look at all these different criteria, but I think we've kind of kept you guys in the loop all along, not disclosing who that by name was the company, but getting you some idea of how this thing was shaking out. Tonight, I would ask that you guys take into consideration what we're recommending. I also want to give staff, specifically Steve and Jeff, a significant acknowledgement is that, when Warren and I handed this off, we pretty much said, we really don't care who it is as long as it's, the two now that you've whittled it down to, good luck. But there was a criteria that wasn't left kind of undone, which was this creative financing. Obviously, we, all of us up here are very focused on trying to get the most for the money. And I hope that you realize that, what I think was the most creative was to lock them into an amount for this plan. It's a critical activity that when we first took this on, we had estimates anywhere from 400,000 to 1.2 million. So we've ended up, in the mid 400,000 zone. But we also looked at a timeline that potentially takes us out 2 years. Staff has been able to spread the cost to lower the pain to the city, therefore preserving critical services like police, public works, things that we need to focus on and continue to provide the service. And I think that this is a great balance. Again, I hope that if there's any specific questions that you would potentially start with us if there are policy issues, then I hope that you'll support our recommendation. Thank you.
All right, at this point, I'm going to bring it back to the council so everybody has another go at it. And we're going to go to Councilmember Mejia. And the representatives are here from the company, so, all right.
Hi, thanks for coming. No, I know that the ad hoc committee did a lot of work on this. One of the things that I want to make sure it's noted for the public, are we going with the lowest bidder? Anyone?
If I may, Mr. Mayor, so I'll address that. So looking at the criteria for the selection of this thing, it was not lowest bidder, lowest responsible bidder. To me, it was really more of best value. And you look at the city code, and as I approached the whole evaluation, and we didn't really come into price, at least from my perspective, but I looked at when this was started back in, I want to say August of last year, it was started. And then looking at code, it really is a personal services contract that exceeds the city manager's threshold. So approaching it from that standpoint, lowest bidder, I don't think that, to me, the lowest bidder was actually going to be the highest in terms of hand-holding from city staff, which would then preclude us from getting other services from our city staff because they had in there things such as a bus tour of the city so they can understand us. And I thought, wow, that's like really starting from a few steps back from the other two offerers. One being somebody who just did the general or the specific plan for the hospital, and then the other one who has their project lead, I think, that grew up in this area from city or the community of Rossmore. So I think from that standpoint, the lowest bidder would have been perhaps not the best choice for us.
Okay. So what we're saying is the lower bidder would have required more staff time.
Potentially would be from what, if I were to look at it from that, I would believe it would be more staff time. And I did grill Mr. Mendoza extensively on that during the ad hoc committee because again, and he was being very, very fair and not taking the bait. But that was my concern that just looking at that, it looked like we might have to bring another staff person on board to just to handhold this their offerer.
Okay. And is staff, Mr. Mendoza, capable of handling those jobs that are going to be handled by this company? Should we go with them?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so it could have been done in-house.
No,
not the entire part. Mr. Kusamoto said that you decided to go with the one company that was a higher bid because it would have taken away from staff's involvement.
No, I think what Councilmember Kusamoto did was reject the lower bid because it would be a drain on staff.
Well,
that's what I'm saying. So is staff, if I can just finish this question real quick, is staff capable of doing the work should we decide to go with the lower bidder?
As currently composed?
With what the ad hoc committee...
The answer to the question is yes.
Okay.
But likely we would have to add staff.
I understand. I just want to make sure that we're qualified. Really, that's the only questions that I have. Thank you.
All right. In the rotation again, you're going to have a chance right now.
Okay. So thank you, Mr. Mayor. So to address Councilmember Graham Mejia's, I think the question you're asking, it's really a make or a buy. Do we want to make it in-house or do we want to buy it? And that wasn't the criteria that I chose. It was really more of we actually, I think we're making the decision to go out and subcontract this. But what I saw is that there would have to be this augmentation of our contract, the lowest bidder, that we would require additional city staff just to answer their questions, just to not to do their work. It wasn't the make or buy. It was really saying if we select this contractor that may be more labor intensive on our city staff than detracting from other services, and that's really what it was. So I don't think that I would think that given a broader staff, more folks here, I'm sure that we can have the right composition of people to do it. But does that make sense? Because then we get into the other part about the labor contracts and all, the PERS and that type of thing.
Sure.
I don't think we want to go down that route. So
Sure.
hence why
I understand contract versus employee and how contract can cost a great deal less. I understand that. I just wanted to ask the questions that I had.
Okay. Appreciate that.
Very good.
So one question back to Mr. Mendoza on the other parts of that, which both Mayor Pro Tem Edgar and myself, we stepped away from. The other criteria. Were you surprised with when you had checked for references? That was one of the things I was curious about. The 3 references. Did anything surprise you of that? And you don't have to go into who said what. I'm just saying. Was that a discriminator? Or did that differentiate one from the other?
It did. It gave more support of the other company's ability to do an EIR. As you know, one company I had just recently been through an EIR with. So it helped me solidify my comfort level with greenhouse gases, EIRs, the same information that we just went through on the other one.
Okay, thank you. And no other further questions. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
All right, moving it back, we're going to go to Councilmember Poe.
Well, first of all, thank you for attending this evening. I'm sorry that you're at the end of the agenda. And I would like to thank the ad hoc committee for the work that was done on this. And it's very interesting because it really does show, I think, to the community that the lowest bidder is not necessarily the best bidder. And so I read through this, and I think everyone did a good job. And it's hard to vote to spend this kind of money, but a general plan is something that is mandated by the government, that we do it and we keep it updated. And when was the last time that it was updated?
30 years ago, approximately, with a very, very minimal EIR. An EIR that has no supportable documents.
It's been updated after that.
Well, no, there was a minor update in...
well, no, we did. I know that in right after I got on the council in 1995, there was a whole... So how long ago was that, 1995? There was a 2-year process to do a full general plan.
Yeah, that was not a full general plan. That never was completed. And,
oh, well, I was under the impression that
it was not what this is. That was a Band-Aid trying to make us legal.
That's interesting, because I know that we had a community group that met for over a year.
Yeah, there are GPACs.
And it was a very lengthy process.
Yeah.
But we've not had anything anywhere near that since then.
Not a comprehensive update of the general plan.
So this is long overdue. It needs to be done. So I'm certainly in favor of it.
All right. Can I go to Mayor Pro Tem Edgar?
Yeah, Stephen, you're not helping us sell this thing, but I think that just when I came in 2006, I did look at the previous general plan and did evaluate it. In fairness to the previous councils, and it really depends on how, whether it was a legal fix to get it to meet minimum requirements. All 7 sections of the general plan had been identified, modified. To Stephen's point, had not been followed up, and so there was holes, and we found those holes, and we tried to get the hospital through. We found those holes when we've had a couple big projects work their way through. Again, so I would, and the only reason too, and this isn't just to vindicate Marilyn and her memory of that, there was a pretty significant community group that got involved and participated in workshops to help our staff and our city council at that time collect information, and so I guess our commitment to the community this time is we will see this thing through. Again, we will make sure that these updates get done. One of the criteria on price that I wanted to kind of also piggyback on what Councilmember Kusumoto said is that, if you guys remember, us collectively, we approved 11 points or criteria of direction to us before we got onto the ad hoc to take this thing over the line. And those 11 points had to do with things that are very important to our community, like sphere of influence for the Rossmore edition that had to be dealt with, and how could these companies potentially do that. So if you look on the staff report in Table 1, you'll go in there and you'll look at some of the areas that we did look at. Incorporation of the largest development project that we had, item number 4, the medical plan. You can see there Hogle Ireland, which was one of the companies, clearly when they wanted a bus tour just to see the city, we knew that RBF, who had done the EIR for that, probably had an upper hand. So, if we really tried to take a quantifiable approach, you look at the couple of the other key areas. The in-house staffing, as Warren had mentioned, was kind of a big deal. I mean, each group provided a really compelling group of professionals, but some of them stood out higher than others. And I think, it is a professional services contract. We do have the discretion, and it's not bound to be at lowest price. It's, most responsible. So I feel really good about the criteria. Again, there's 11 rose from being the items that we were commissioned to do. We started adding criteria that took us to 23. And even in that process, to share a little bit what went on in our ad hoc group, because it wasn't a closed session, it was just an open discussion. Price got added fairly late in there because we started thinking, man, this seems almost too clear. Maybe we better look at price to make sure we're not missing something. So, I think that, summary here, this is long overdue. We are half in already with a hospital where we made a commitment to the community. We try and get this general plan updated. One of my projects that I'm very focused on, the downtown redevelopment. Hopefully this will have a significant impact. That I don't want to hold it up. We've got an issue going on in Rossmore right now with the sphere of influence. There's a Rossmore component of this. In less than a month, they're going to be potentially looking at latent powers that has an effect of how ready are we with our general plan on, what started a little bit of a skirmish with Rossmore was we went over there to talk to them about this, the general plan, and they looked at that and said that was something that they may have read a little bit deeper into the meeting, but we just want to get this plan updated. It's long overdue, and with this blueprint in place and the planning assumptions, now we can start to really take advantage of the economy picking up in the next 2 to 3 years, and I think this is the right time to do it. Thank you, Mayor.
All right. Okay, the recommendation on this is to authorize the city manager to approve a professional services agreement with the Planning Center, DCE, for general plan update in the amount of $429,478. Authorize staff to amend their proposed budget for fiscal year 2011-2012 for year one of agreement in the amount of $150,000, and to authorize staff to amend the proposed budget for fiscal year 2011-2012 in the amount of $25,000 for the in-house peer review of the general plan, including engineering, traffic, and legal. Is there a motion?
Well, don't everyone speak?
Yeah, the ad hoc committee brought it, so I would
I'll
hope
make
that
the motion.
Yeah.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
4 in favor, 1 not. All right. Thank you, gentlemen, for being here and answering all those questions for us. All right, we're going to go on to item D, consideration of possible action regarding the draft report of the Orange County Redistricting Commission.
The Orange County Redistricting Commission is starting to move quickly on drawing its new boundaries for the local assembly and senate districts in California, and specifically, Orange County specifically. And in so doing, it looks like there's been a significant change, at least on the first preliminary draft maps that I've attached to the staff report. Not knowing where the council stood on this issue, and not knowing what if they'd wanted to make any comment at all, this item's been placed on the agenda for comment, mainly for 2 reasons. One, it looks like they're changing up the boundaries a little bit, at least on the local assembly district, to include Huntington Beach, which is currently there, Seal Beach is currently there, but to exclude Cypress and La Palma, and to include portions of Costa Mesa. I think, at least on the surface, it looks like it's a pretty significant change in the communities of interest clause in this, and I just put this on for discussion if the council had anything more to say about it. So.
All right, let's bring it back to the council, and I guess my concern on it would be we're going to lose a little bit of a stakeholder, a voice, aren't we, in this proposed plan?
Well, to put it this way, I think that from my perspective only, but what I would say to the council is that it's easier to deal with smaller communities than larger ones when you are a smaller community, and I think that ties to the communities of interest situation on this.
So looping us in with Huntington Beach and the rest of them, I mean, we would just be nothing as far as opinion goes, or even dealing with things like OCTA, as some of the things that we discussed earlier today.
Yeah, no, exactly. We have more commonality of interest on these regional plans and projects with Cypress and La Palma than certainly would with Costa Mesa, which is the significant change on this. So, and I think it's worth weighing in for that reason alone if there's not any more that the council had thought. So if there is, I mean, for that reason alone, that's enough for me to generate a letter for the mayor's signature expressing our concerns about this. If there's additional concerns that want to be stated, I'd happy to include those as well.
All right. I'm going to bring it back to the council again. Councilmember Mejia, do you?
Well, do you mind if I defer to the end? Just, I'd like to hear what the other council members. I agree with you, Mayor. That was my initial concern, but I'd like to see what some of the others have to say before I make any comments.
Councilmember Kusumoto?
Sure. I'm just have to just profess my ignorance on this. I looked at the map. I wasn't my eyebrows did raise on the Costa Mesa portion of that. So why are we not, with La Palma, Cypress, Buena Park, and that? So kind of echoing the other concerns here. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
All right, Councilmember Poe.
Well, I guess I'm just going to be really mean.
Go for it.
I am appalled. I looked at this, and first of all, we got emails from Lacey Kelly from the Association of California Cities of Orange County, and I was not able to open them. There were several maps, and my computer's playing real funny games with me. I was not able to open all of them, but it does say here, remember that this is an interactive process. The draft maps are not final. Well, I hope to tell you, I sure hope they're not final. This is absolute ridiculous as far as I'm concerned. And I have one question. Does anyone on either one of these maps see Stanton? I guess Stanton is just kind of put out there out in outer space or something. Stanton's not even here. We certainly don't have anything in common with Santa Ana, Costa Mesa, or Newport Beach. Right. I mean, you could just draw a line and take that completely out. Why wouldn't we be with, stay with Cypress, with Buena Park, with La Palma, or even with Stanton? Yeah, you could take that and make a pretty good sized district. I didn't go over the numbers to figure out the numbers, and because I know it's supposed to be weighted on several different things, but this to me just looks like we're just going to be pushed right down into a hole. And I'd like to know what input did our supervisor, did our Jim Silva have on this? Did he have any input on this?
It's an independent commission that was appointed by, I believe, the county, right?
Oh, right, that's right. It isn't by the vote. It's an independent commission. I think it's horrible. I think it's absolutely horrible, and I would like to have you scream bloody thunder, because I think that we're really being dealt a real bad hand here. It certainly, from what I can see, isn't going to help us at all when it comes to everything to do with all of the other agencies. We have nothing in common with what they're proposing here. Okay. So I guess I'm mean enough.
All right, Councilmember Poe, thank you for not really telling us how you really feel. We're going to go on to Mayor Pro Tem Edgar, and before I do that, I can tell you that Stanton is right here underneath this layover.
Oh, you found it?
Yeah, but it's not. You
can't
would never
see it.
know.
See it.
You'd never know.
Would never know.
Yes.
Yeah. Well,
All right.
okay.
Okay. Just a little bit more information on this because I am following this also. Previous election, 2010 or 2008, California voters passed a redistricting of all of the state. After the census came out, all of the census information goes into this redistricting. It's an interesting process, and when you ask, well, who provides comment or feedback? About 4 weeks ago in Santa Ana, they had in all of Orange County, they had one meeting, just like they did in every county. This is a group of 10 to 14 people. I can't remember how many's on the commission. They're appointed as nonpartisan, and the voters said back in 2008 that they wanted to have, after the census came out, they didn't want politicians redistricting. So this happens every 10 years. If you think back way, in the early 90s, late 90s, Royce and Rohrabacher have switched on who takes care of us here in Los Alamitos. Mm-hmm. So this is a pretty important issue, and I'm glad that it's on the agenda. This also has some time sensitivity. Is that the initial maps, as Jeff, as you had mentioned, came out last week. They get finalized in August. So this is a comment period that is opened up. For me personally, to try to get involved with this, my consideration was that because we are so small, our voice would have been really well heard through the League of Governments for Orange County, or the ACCOC, Lacey Kelly. And what they were trying to do is basically look at what they thought with all the cities, and then they all weighed in and they put together their drafts of what they thought the districts should look like. And it's interesting is that what the release of what these came versus kind of what your issue is, Marilyn, that you're concerned about. The league, or the ACCOC, the Orange County League, had the same view as it pertains to Los Al. So primarily what they've done is they basically had two objectives with this. One is they wanted to maintain contiguous cities and county boundaries. So, like, for example, Dana Rohrabacher's the congressman. He has Seal Beach, and his district goes all of Orange County down, way down the coast, all the way to Palos Verdes. So, if you're, he did. It was hard for him to always look out for both sides, and he's always accused of kind of helping the other, not helping the other. So they wanted to try and fix that, and you'll see in these district maps they did. They cut the boundaries hard for the Assembly and the State Assembly, State Senate, and the Congress at the boundaries. They wanted to keep cities whole. If you live in Anaheim, there's 3 different assembly districts that service Anaheim. So can you imagine? And for us, we think it's hard because we've got somebody we know. It's really hard if you are trying to fight for money. All of that being said, I do agree with you, Marilyn. I think that these boundaries, because the second criteria was, the first one was contiguous contiguous cities and county boundaries. The second one, which is the most important, was areas of common interest. And, what that was supposed to do is preserve, and it has nothing to do specifically, per se, with Los Alamitos proper, but it had to do with trying to preserve minority bases or minority voting blocks where you would have certain demographics or communities of interest that you're trying to maintain. And that's, again, why we gave this to a nonpartisan group as voters versus politicians, is we didn't care what party they were in. We just wanted to get the most representative districts that they could work together. And I think on that criteria is where I would have to agree with you, Marilyn, is that I don't think that the maps clearly reflect the objectives that this group has been handed in trying to keep, areas of common interest. When I started going through kind of preparing for this tonight, I was thinking, what cities, when we add Costa Mesa, Newport Beach, they basically, what they've done with our Assembly and Senate district, they've created a coastal district. Mm-hmm. And the coastal district, they have issues that have to do with coastal runoff, with coastal erosion issues, sand on the beaches, traffic due to tourism, seasonal. There's a lot of issues that are going to get visibility that aren't going to help us.
Right.
And then they set up this district for us. And again, the way these are set up, if your assembly district, there's 2 assembly districts per Senate district. The problem is that they have a district called the Garden Grove Gateway, the gateway to LA, and they basically extended that district from Fountain Valley above Costa Mesa all the way to the border, just around us. So they missed the most important gateway, and they kind of kept us in the coastal. So I think that there's a good rationale to be providing a balanced input in, and so I would agree with the potential of putting a letter together. But I would say if we're going to put a letter together and try to be articulate about this issue, I would also probably put a letter supporting what the ACCOC, or the Orange County League, said, because they actually acknowledged that they probably shouldn't have LoSal in a coastal district. We would have nothing to gain. We would be misrepresented or underrepresented, and we would never really have the ability to influence on issues that are most important to us. Now, the reason why I made the comment earlier in council about item on the council about the Catella Smart Street is that is, our number one issue in the campaigns you hear is traffic. The Smart Street is probably one of the top three components of trying to make it better that we can actually do, and we depend on Cypress, Stanton, etc., not on Seal Beach, not on Huntington Beach or Costa Mesa. The other thing I would tell you, talking with Supervisor Morlock, is after all this goes on, there's another committee at the supervisor level that they're going to redraw the county districts. So there's a proposal out there for this county of Orange that basically moves us north into working with Cypress and all them. But so our supervisorial district potentially goes the right way in working with the gateway cities, while this goes the other way. Well, this will potentially influence, because the county comes after this. So the county will then look at what the state has done and the Fed, and they will try to see, so that it's not confusing. So I think this has a collateral impact potentially also at the county side. And again, it's the 34th smallest city in Orange County. I think we need to try to maintain our influence base the best we can. So I would wholeheartedly support a letter to help us under the cause of protecting our common interests, our communities of interest, and trying to stay paired with cities that are a little bit smaller in composite, like Cypress, La Palma, Stanton, Fountain Valley, et cetera, and be a part of that inland district as proposed. I do think that the letter would make a difference if we do decide to do that. I kind of backed off because when I started getting involved with the Association of the Cities, or California Cities, Orange County, it seemed like there was a lot of power plays going on with the big cities. I didn't think we would have a problem, so I thought there's no need to not waste time, but there's no need to get involved at that point because it's not going to affect us. Now I'm looking at it thinking, God, I wish I probably would have got more actively involved. So with that, if anybody hasn't seen those maps that they sent us, they sent them to all of us, and I looked at them in preparation for this. It is interesting that it almost completely supports what we're talking about and asked. So I think that there's an opportunity here that we could send a note saying why, and I put together a list of 5 or 6 things that, the medical center, the OCFA, the fire stations we share,
Right.
Station 2 and 17. Station 17 is the only station this side north of the 405 that actually has a paramedic unit. And, Ken on the OCFA and Todd Seymour in Cypress leverage to kind of make sure that gets fully serviced and takes care of us. I think there's a SWAT. The water providers, Golden State Water, there's a lot of issues that we have the same trash providers. That's good from some parts of, just giving you a hard time, Sherry. But the bottom line is I think there's a lot of commonality. So, I've said a lot, but we were asking questions like what's going on. So I thought I'd fill in the blanks because I am following this.
Very good. Anyone else have any comments?
Yeah, I'll go now. I appreciate the extra input because there's always a reason behind what's going on. And since I'm not involved at that level, I appreciate the input from Mayor Pro Tem Edgar. That was just looking at it with very little experience was my concern is that, boy, we're small and we're not going to have a say because I've been in this long enough to know how that works. What does Seal Beach feel about this? Does anybody know? Have we heard anything? I'd be curious to see what they think and if they're interested in sending the same kind of letter because Troy has worked very hard to build, this camaraderie between Seal Beach, Rossmore, LaSalle, Cypress, and Garden Grove. All started with stuff over at the base. And so I think that keeping that together, since it's already established, will only get stronger over time and give us a better voice at the table. So I agree. I think we should send a letter. It concerns me. But I would like to find out what Seal Beach is thinking and see if they're interested in doing that also.
You know what?
Yeah, exactly.
All right. And you are right on that. In fact, once we send our letter out, I'd like to send the letter to all the surrounding cities
Sure.
And gather support too, because whether they are in it or out of it, like Cyprus, I think they would be interested in knowing that where we stand on it. So the more letters we can get out on this, I think the better. And it sounds to me like you have a unanimous group of people up here that are
I gotcha.
that are saying let's send a letter out, tame it down a little bit, don't make it completely like.
You can add Westcom to it also, because that's something we share jointly.
Yeah, and again, I know that this is something that has to be done fast too. So hopefully within the next 48 hours, we'll have something and get it out and get it going. All right, you have your direction on that. I don't think we need anything else on that. And now we're going to go to Mayor and Council-initiated business. And I am on the first one there. Had the opportunity on the 21st to go to the Southland Credit Union's 75th anniversary. It was a wonderful event, and I wanted to thank them for being in our community as long as they have been, 75 years, and being a great partner for us within our community. I wasn't the only one there, so you're going to hear other people speak about it too. But Southland Credit Union is always there whenever we need an instant fix. We need a sponsor for something, and you know, they're deeply appreciated for all the work they do in the community. Also had the opportunity of going to a dinner to recognize Dr. Franklin as a man of distinction from the school board, his pretty much leaving the district, and also Alan McLean for Lifetime Achievement Awards. It was a great evening, and it was wonderful to see the outpouring of people at that dinner, and the awards presentation came off perfectly. There were a few tears from a few people, but again, the Los Alamitos city is really representing or showing a lot of respect for Dr. Greg Franklin and Alan McLean. So it was a beautiful night. I also had a meeting with the OCFA last week, or actually a week and a half ago, and we're still working on the capital improvement program. Part of that was technology, and a huge investment in technology improvement over the next 5 years. Part of that is exactly what Councilmember Mejia was talking about, to be able to get the correct technology into the trucks, into the firefighters' hands, to be able to have that access to changing signals, and really to bring them up to the 21st century. The system hadn't been updated for over 15 to 20 years in some cases that they're using. And there's too many lives at stake, both the firefighters and the residents. So I know that that was all worthwhile, and I worked on that Budget and Finance Committee on that one for quite a while. But it's a beautiful capital improvement program. It's going to involve $54 million over the next 5 years. But it's going to make it the one of the better fire authorities in the state, and hopefully in the country too, and definitely one of the safest. That's all I have, so I'm going to move it on to Councilmember Mejia.
Thank you, Mayor. I have a question. It was brought up at the last meeting regarding wanting to have the negotiations for the employees, or say the POA, out here on the dais. Is that something we're able to do?
Do the negotiations on the dais? No.
Okay, I just wanted that clarified because someone brought it up, and I want them to know it's not anything we're trying to hide. It's just not something we're allowed.
Yeah, no, it's the state code provides for a specific exemption where we can have confidential negotiations and different proposals and discuss that in closed session, and that's for the protection of folks that are bringing forward ideas and thoughts. So.
Sure. I just want the community to know that, you know, if there's that perception, we aren't able to do that. The safety items were brought forward by both Alice and Javier Mejia tonight. Can we agendize something? I know that thing for Lexington has been brought forward repeatedly, and it really is. I mean, I guess it's a great revenue maker for the police department, but it just doesn't make any sense. And like I said, I've talked to the stakeholders who, when they were doing all of that, they didn't anticipate the usurping of traffic down, the neighborhood right there. And it
Yeah,
really
I have to own that one. That's one I put on the back burner, and I'll put it back on the front burner and really
Okay.
get it on. So.
Well, because I know, didn't we just cancel the traffic commission meeting? Wasn't that what was in the meeting?
Yeah, it's not really a traffic commission issue. There are a couple moving parts on this that we just need to just make it a priority and do that. And
Hey, can we have it on the next agenda then? That'd be
great. We'll get you status of the next agenda on that.
And the safety issue over by Mayor Pro Tem's house, I have, that's my husband who brought that forward. He showed me it, and because that's what he does for a living, I really think that it's something we need to address, because if someone's injured, that's on us, because now we're aware of it. Anyways, those safety items are probably the first and foremost. Also, if we address in the budget more money, and I don't know necessarily how we do this if we have a surplus, but Mrs. Sela is right. And we've brought this up before, and I know it's a hard thing with the sidewalks. There are sidewalks throughout the community that are trip hazards, and that puts us at risk. So I think we need to have a little CIP plan for that and how we're going to move forward with it, because it happens continually, I know, in different areas because of trees and such, but we don't want our residents hurting themselves.
I've committed to Kathy that I will get on the street myself and take a hard look at all of that. So
Sure.
we'll get on
Well, no, I know you have a lot going on. You're the city manager, but it's throughout the community. It's not just
Right.
in that neighborhood, but I appreciate her bringing that forward. And then also, I wanted to say congratulations to all the graduating class of Los Alamitos High School and any promotions that are happening at the junior highs and the elementary schools. It's a great time for you seniors. You're moving on to college or on to trade schools and getting into the work environment. And I just want to say we'll be praying for you and wish you all the best, and just enjoy graduation, because now it's all grown up time from here. Other than that, I'll go ahead and pass it on to the mayor.
All right, now we'll go to Councilmember Kusumoto.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I too attended the Southline Credit Union's 75th anniversary on the 21st, and I got there a bit late, so I was running a bit late, and I wasn't able to stay as long. But they did host a very nice VIP reception, and I did. Since I'd already eaten lunch, I didn't partake of any of the refreshments, but they looked very delicious. And it was really rather interesting to talk with some of the board members of the history of the credit union, and that was informative for me. So it was nice to have been there. I also attended the Chamber of Commerce's recognition honoring Alan McLean and Dr. Gray Franklin. And I guess city manager, I was surprised when I called up. I found out that we have a table there, and I'm not sure what's the protocol, the policy. Is this something we buy in these type of things?
We had a couple of things working there. I believe that 2 council members sponsored a table, and then at the 11th hour, Wildan and Associates sponsored a table. That
Gotcha.
was
Okay, thank you.
Yeah,
because I was kind of I called up the chamber, and they says, "Oh, well, the council has a table already. Are you going to sit with them?" And I thought, I was really there on behalf of my wife, who was active in PTA, and she wanted to be there for Dr. Franklin for his thing. So okay, I just wanted to get some clarification on that. So, and. I think that was it. With that, I'll turn it back to you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
All right, thank you. I'm going to go to Councilmember Poe.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I have a long list.
Marilyn, make it short.
It's been very, 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 very busy last 3 weeks. Okay, on May 17th, I attended the Westcom meeting, and that is another reason for us to be associated closely with Seal Beach, because we have Westcom. And City Manager Jeff and I attended that. And at that meeting, we approved the 2011-2012 proposed budget. On May the 19th, I attended the Orange County Library meeting, and they also approved the 2011-2012 budget. And that was very interesting, because there was not a quorum, and we had to wait until a quorum got there, and from Stanton, council member Royce Sr. came in and got a standing ovation because he made the quorum. The interesting thing at the Orange County library system is that all of the cities that contribute to that there's a formula for that. And Irvine, being as large as they are super, super, super funders of the Orange County library system. So there's been a 2-year process of assessing this because they will, in the near future, need to have 2 more libraries. And if they pull out of the Orange County library system, the whole system basically would probably crash. So they've come up with a system whereby Irvine will continue to fund the funding that they do at the present time, but there will be a cap. And in the future, anything that goes above that cap will go into a specific fund for Irvine for the administration of, they probably will in the future have 2 more libraries, for the administration of those libraries, so that it will be a little bit more equitable. And everybody was on board with that because they realized the value of Irvine's contribution. Okay, I also attended the Southland Credit Union event. It was lovely. They've just been so good to our community, and they said, Angie, they missed you. Mm-hmm. It was a very nice event. On May 31st, I had the pleasure of attending the Girl Scout fly-up ceremony, along with Mayor Pro Tem Edgar, and I had the privilege of awarding the Silver Award and the Bronze Award. In the silver, I'm just going to say these names because, you know, these girls do an awful lot to get these awards. It's amazing. The silver awards went to Elise Banuelos, Kristen Drake, Nikan Hakima, Erica Nilsson, Rachel Robinson, Gabrielle Vida, Samantha Chaffee, Kaylee Evans, Emily Randig, Caitlin Romero and Kimberly Romero, Maggie Loesch, and Emily Williams. Actually, the Troop 1631, those awards were given by our chief because he worked with those girls, Samantha, Kaylee, Emily, Caitlin, and Kimberly. They're the ones that worked with him and our police department on the prescription drug take-back day. So that was fun. I didn't mean to omit you that you went. He was there also, and he had the privilege of giving to the awards to those girls that they worked with the police department. You know, there's things from after-school supplies, collecting bottles and cans to raise money for personal hygiene kits for homeless people, working with the Seal Beach Animal Shelter. It just goes on with these kids, collecting books for the Long Beach Miller Children's Hospital. These girls are just amazing. 2 of them learned how to sew so they could make hats for newborns in Haiti because the mortality rate there is so high. And then the Gold Award. This was, you know, the thing is that by the time the kids get to be seniors in high school, to stay in Girl Scouting is really a challenge because there's sports, there's activities, there's, you know, all kinds of things that go on. Kids are so busy nowadays. But it was just really delightful to be able to present the Gold Award to Jeanette Hansen. And she made a sign for the California Distinguished School for Weaver Elementary. And the sign was 5 feet high by 5 feet wide. And it will be, she designed it and she helped the kids paint it, and it will be put on the remodeled school. And then Nicole Hench, and her beautification program was for the Los Alamos Youth Center, and it had to do with with beautifying and putting in place, replacing some concrete benches and doing a bunch of work outside of the youth center leading up to Oak Gym. Lacey Sapara also did hers with the Los Alamitos Youth Center, and she renovated cabinets so that there was storage for the laptop computers. And for people that don't know, the kids go there after school. They can do in the homework clinic. They use the laptops, and they needed to have a place to put them. And she did such a fantastic job that the youth center recognized her as Youth of the Year for 2011 during their campaign. So that was really a fun night. It's always a fun night to go to that. Again, I also was able to go to the dinner for Dr. Franklin and Alan McLean. Gee whiz, it was so nice to see everyone in the community came out to recognize those two gentlemen and their contribution to our community. The next night, June the 2nd, was Los Alamitos Police Officers Association Annual Appreciation Dinner. That's always a lot of fun to go to. It was at Preveza. And on the same evening, we had another one of the trucks to go over at the U.S. Bank, and it was the first night of the St. Isidore Historical Plaza Beer Garden, and it was very successful, and we think that's going to just grow each week. So we're looking, real forward to that. Also, I would like to announce that the principal at Los Alamitos Elementary, Sunji Okino, she is an amazing, amazing woman. She is unbelievable, and she was named Principal of the Year in Orange County. So that's quite something for our little community here. Let me see. There's a couple of things I wanted to ask about. We had at our last meeting a long discussion about the NPDES, and we turned down a company to oversee that. But afterwards, I spoke to Stephen and our city manager about working with the sewer district, because I think we were doing duplicate things. Can we have a report about that?
We did meet, and it was productive, but what we found out was the inspections that are done by the sewer district, and Stephen's going to remember the acronym, but it's basically grease traps, and they don't actually go to the curb. They only go to the restaurants and the grease traps there, so that the inspections there, the overlap probably isn't there. But more importantly is that we learned about a consultant that probably will work more efficiently and cheaper than the consultants we've run across that could possibly do the same thing. So we're looking into that now to see if that's a good match.
Okay, so that was looking a little bit forward to that. Oh, okay. I know that there was discussions, and I thought that the Lexington signal issue had been put on the Traffic Commission, and then it was taken off for some reason.
I don't remember that. Has the commission looked at that? I've completely forgotten about it.
It's on a items to do list.
Okay, yeah. So we're going to front burner it.
Yeah, okay, because I also am curious about that, and I know that I had requested U-turns on Catella.
Same thing.
And that's the same
right
thing.
there.
We really need, and there was a comment here by Mrs. Eli that we don't have a friendly community. We can't maneuver in this community very well. I think that we really do need to look at alleys going one way. I use the alleys because I live here, and I know that I can get through the community through the alleys. And I try real hard to make sure that I don't speed, because I know that there's a lot of speeding. So I think these are things that we really do need to look at. And I'm not so sure. I know years ago we looked at Green and Howard being one-way streets, one direction, one the other. I don't know that isn't something that we may want to look at again. Just some ideas. Okay, and the other thing is that I would like to ask that we close our meeting this evening in memory and honor of Jeff Thompson, and I know that you have another, you're going to take care of the other one.
Right.
Okay, I'm done.
All right.
Do you think the Girl Scouts could help us with our beautification project? We could use all the help we could get.
Okay, Mayor Pro Tem Edgar.
Yeah, we got to get him on some heavy equipment.
What the heck? Yeah.
Just really quick, I had the opportunity to go to the Girl Scout bridging ceremony with Chief Mattern in Maryland. I'll tell you, I opted to go. I have 3 boys, so not getting the opportunity to do a lot of Girl Scout stuff. Wanted to see how it was done by the experts, and I would just say Todd, Maryland. Luckily, they gave me the lower kind of entry level awards to give out, although very significant for their scouting career. But then I got to sit down and see it done, and it's just it's 2 things. I'm just really proud of our city and our community for. That connection with the Girl Scout process. The award that stuck in my mind was the Girl Scouts that did the award that you worked with, Chief, and they collected over 100 pounds of prescription drugs at City Hall and were a big part of that process. And I heard all about that. I didn't know the Girl Scouts were involved until I actually sat there and listened. So good job with that. And again, thanks for taking time outside of the workday and getting it so involved in our community. I had the opportunity to represent Los Alamitos in the Memorial Day ceremony at the Forest Lawn Cemetery. Just a great ceremony. I go to that, with all of us usually are there, and it was just another excellent ceremony. A great, benediction and thoughts and prayers put on by Mayor Mills and City of Cypress. He did an outstanding job, and it was just a really good ceremony and a day to really give thanks to fact of our fighters that are overseas now. One of the most touching points on that was that at the wreath laying, they had one of the moms for the Fullerton young man that was killed lay the wreath, and I just about lost it. So it was a good one to lose it because it just reminds you of how personal it is. It's so easy to see it on the news, and being a previous veteran myself, sometimes you don't realize we're in 2 wars and we're really losing people. The Police Officers Association mixer was excellent. Chief, pass on to Chris Carr and all of the Police Officer Association folks. This is the opportunity for the community to get involved with the Police Officers Association, the honorary group. And, we some of us, most of us on the council get very involved because they raise money to try and help if we ever have a fallen officer or other community needs that the police try to step up from the rank and file. I think Chris Carr's done a great job in continuing the membership. And you get an opportunity to really sit down with the police. I think if there's anything that I really critical about myself is I don't always have a lot of time to come down and just hang out at City Hall. And so sometimes I got to go to functions and actually take advantage to see some of our folks that are doing 24/7 out there. And so again, Chief, thank you again. And please pass that on. The chamber event, the Greg Franklin, Alan McLean event, really enjoyed that. I would also say good job to Dave Boyer. He got up there, one of our finest Los Alamitos school board members, and got up and did a really moving tribute to Greg Franklin and was able to kind of give a perspective. But I do think that Greg Franklin took an ordinary amount of beating from his support for USC, and I'm there for him. I didn't have a chance to speak on his behalf, but it was like the whole room was filled full of UCLA Bruin folks, so I'm not sure what that was about.
I got him there.
Yeah. And then Alan McLean, again, thank you so much for everything that you did for the community, and continue to live the legacy through your son, Sean. We're just very appreciative. The one thing that you just can't get away from is every event you go to, whether it's a charity event, a city event, anything in the community, you turn over on the back and it says printed courtesy of Sir Speedy. Whether Alan's there with his wife Lori and giving back in person or financially supporting this community, hopefully Sean will step up. I think I made very similar comments before, but it's people like him that really make this community special, and we really appreciate all of his service. The Rivers and Mountains Community or Conservation Group. You guys gave me a charter to push that thing through, and I would have to say we've jumped on it. We've had now 2 total meetings. We've had the entire Rivers and Mountains Conservancy here with the Watershed Conservancy, Southern California Edison, our city staff. I ended up having to get trade out or change our project manager on that to get somebody that was more familiar with the process, and from that we've been able to kind of get this thing turbocharged. we've put together a critical path, very similar to the way we did the ad hoc committee and the planning for the general plan, but really just trying to get the whole process in place. The critical path right now is the path to the PUC, the California Public Utilities Commission. So once we now have the lease, the 25-year lease for the property, we've got the designs done. Now we're trying to get it ready to go to CPUC. It's sort of like submitting it to the council. Then we have to wait for their staff in Sacramento to hear our requests statewide and get in that queue. We have to get out of that queue by November to hit our critical path for sending out to bid and construction. Dave Hunt has been very helpful, our city engineer, and Jeff. I mean, there's a lot of people, but I'm just going to outline the ones that right now I think are pulling a tremendous amount of weight and pushing through a lot of the design issues and the direct relationships with Edison that seem to be kind of a challenge area for us. And so, Dave, thank you for that. I hope, we've got between now and next June to finish this and bill, or we lose this project. So that is my push. I'll keep you appraised. Southland Credit Union had a great event there. I did partake in the refreshments, and they were very good. And it was just a really nice event. That organization is really, founded in Downey, an offshoot of L.A. County or L.A. City, kind of a union employees-owned bank that's ended up now 75 years down the road, calling Los Alamitos its home. A little shameless plug for them. They have open office space in that building there off of Los Al Boulevard. They've got about 5,000 square feet. They're trying to find people to rent. And so if there's any business owners out there that are thinking on moving to Los Al, they would very much appreciate that. And you can contact the city manager if there's any interest in that. The budget workshop, I think that before this, Anita, welcome to Los Alamitos. We're having a really good budget workshop, productive. I would say if there's one thing now that did not get in the details of it that I would just ask for is that, at the end, I think everybody on this council has got the right mindset to, our biggest objectives was to make sure that we have a structurally sound budget. That means that we're not at a structural deficit and that we rebuild our surplus back to $8 million where it was, back in 2004, and we're at 7.2, and we continue to grow that, and it's been as low as 5, and now it's back up to 7.2. I hope in the end, that we'll be able to put our differences aside and go through and unanimously pass a budget. But I hope that and this is just kind of a communication generally across to all of us, that if we reach a point in the budget that's the non-negotiable, I would just ask that you please make us know that we're crossing that point. I think everybody seems to be very conciliatory through the budget process, working together, all in good spirit. I just think that right now to our community, it would mean a lot to them to have a budget that's fiscally sound and unanimously approved, and I would just continue to push for that. The Orange County Sanitation District, I had the privilege of being nominated and elected again for the vice chair job. In the sanitation district, you go on 2-year stints, unlike the mayor or mayor pro tem. You get elected as the vice chair and chair, and then you usually serve for 2 years. So now I'm going into my second year, and in theory, next year possibly, it would end up being a chair job. I just wanted to report next week. I am going out of town to Washington D.C. I get to go on my first lobbying trip for wastewater, and I'm going to submit my agenda to the city manager. And the reason why I'm a little bit, I've had a ton of opportunities to travel with the Sand District, but there's a lot of people pulling Freedom of Information Act record requests on travel. So I just want to make sure that when I do travel for the Sand District, that I'm informing the council, look, this is what my objectives are. You can see what the agenda is that we'll cover. And, down the road, if anybody ever has concerns about me taking trips on behalf of the taxpayers, I would just want everybody up here to know what I was doing. Let's see. The library board, I guess, Marilyn, a comment, kind of a corollary to your comments. Irvine does hold the cards on this, and I don't disagree with you, and I unbelievably support everything that you do there. But I will tell you, my 2.5 years on the library board, we have the oldest library in the district here, and it looks that way. It's been redone on the inside, but it looks that way. Irvine hasn't had population growth net in the last 2.5 years, and they're thinking on building 2 more libraries. And it's usually one of the biggest influencers on the statistics of that is population and usership, et cetera. But usership on all libraries, because I still kind of keep track of them, is going down, and that people aren't sure what libraries are going to be in the future. I am concerned, and if it does start to move forward and you need help from a council giving you some support so you don't have to be the bad guy, because I know sometimes it's hard to be the bad guy because everybody's always nice on that board. Bring it back, because I think I do take a little bit of exception to put in 2 new libraries in Irvine when I would sure love to see our library taken care of. And, we theoretically also kind of hold the library for Rossmore and Seal, so we don't even get the full credit, but we carry the burden of the responsibility.
And even in our city.
I know. Yeah. So I'm with you, and I know the rest of the council is. Lastly, I'd like to congratulate my youngest son, Ethan Edgar. He's graduating from Oak, and I just want to tell him good job, and hope that all the graduates, as it was said earlier, from middle school and high school have the best time, and we just pray for a very safe grad night, and that everybody just really enjoys the celebrations coming up over the summer. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything from the city manager?
I think tonight's.
All right. We are not going to be closing the meeting right now, but when we do close the meeting...
Actually, I have good news for you. We can cancel the closed session. There is no need to meet in closed session, no new developments or action required, so we can skip that closed session and hold it another night when there's more to report.
Right now, person. In that case, then we are going to close the meeting, but we are going to close it on a somber note, and we are closing the meeting seriously in the name of Andrew Garton, a father of 2 young boys, family man, and he was the officer that was killed in the crash just recently. And also in Jeff Thompson. Again, we're closing the meeting in his name too. We send our best wishes to both the families, and this will go down as in history as being the meetings that were closed in their names. So this is it. Thank you.